If you love the look of border dies, you're going to love today's video. Let's create some really fun cards featuring two different border dies from Stampin' Up.
Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I am thrilled that you're joining me today because I have got some really fun creative border cards. We're going to be using some border dies in a really unique way. So let's head over to my stamping table and get to creating.
I love the looks of these cards. You know, sometimes it's just fun to add that little bit of a border to give yourself just a really unique card. Now, we're going to be doing two different cards today. So I'm going to move this one off to the side because this one is one of my favorites. I hope that you can see what I've done to the middle of those flowers. And this is going to feature a brand new stamp set and die set. It's called the Flowers of Beauty, and I love this one, but I did want you to notice there is not a sentiment in this stamp set. So I will be bringing in my sentimental part for my sentiment, but of course you guys know, use what you have. This is a fantastic die set, and let me show you the border we're actually going to use. We're going to use this one here, and that's going to create these great flowers. So let's get started and let's go over the measurements we need to create today's cards. As always, there's a free download that goes along with today's video, so be sure to grab that at SimplySimpleStamping.com or look down in the YouTube description. I've got a direct link for you. Remember, you'll have the photos, you'll have the measurements, the supply list, a QR code so you can come back and watch the video again if you need a refresher. Friends, I want you to have that free download so when you go to create this card, you'll have everything that you need. I am going to use Lemon Lime Twist as my base. It is a 5.5 by 8.5, and I have that scored at 4.25, and then I have another score line right here, and this is at 7/8 of an inch. I have two pieces of Berry Burst. This is a 4 by 5.25. This would be a 2.5 by 5.25. Two pieces of basic white that will layer on our Berry Burst. And so this is a 3 3/4 by 5 and a 2.25 by 5. The last thing we're going to need is kind of just a scrap of some Daffodil Delight. It's going to need to be at least a 1 by 5.5 so that we can get all of our flowers out of that. So as long as it's enough to get you there, that's what we need. And so let's go ahead and get started. Since I've got this die out, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my card base. And by the way, there are two flower dies in this one, all right? We're going to use the bigger one. And I am simply going to place that right here, center it up on my 7/8 of an inch. In fact, I want you to kind of see how I got it centered from side to side as well. That way those flowers are centered in my border. We're going to take base plate 1, thin die adapter 2, and a cutting plate 3. So let me go ahead. We'll go ahead and place our cardstock and our die right here. Now it fits, it barely fits onto the plate. So just make sure you've got that good centered up. We'll gently top it with plate 3. And now let's run this through our machine. All right, you see we have all these great flowers, but we're not going to use those on this project, but I'll definitely be using them on another project. I'm now going to take that same die and I'm going to run that through my Daffodil Delight so that I can get all of the flowers for the front of my card. And there we go. I'm going to set these off to the side because I need to do a little stamping so I can kind of start to put my card together. So let's bring in our basic white cardstock, and I've got some just some copy paper there underneath me so I can work. We are going to be using Lemon Lime Twist, Berry Burst, and our Memento Black. I'm going to start actually with my Lemon Lime Twist, and we're going to ink up this great big leafy image. I'm coming off the bottom of my cardstock just a little bit, just because I don't want my tree hanging in the air. And on this one here, this would be that 4 by 5.25. I'm really stamping off. This is for the inside, and I want just a little bit of that tree showing right there. Now we're going to add that burst of color with our Berry Burst ink pad. and all of these gorgeous flowers. And let me tell you, what I love about this is I'm going to stamp it twice. I'm just going to flip the stamp around so it kind of has a different feel. But look at that. Boom. We have great, big, beautiful berry burst flowers. We'll repeat that here. There's really no right or wrong way of where you're going to stamp them. We just want to have all that beautiful color. All right, last thing, we're going to add a sentiment to these cards, and we're going to do that in our Memento Black. So I'm going to make this a thanks card. So right here, I'm going to stamp thanks at an angle. And I'm actually going to repeat that here on the inside of the card. Again, just stamp at an angle, but I'm going to add a little bit more to this because in this stamp set, it's builder sentiment. So I can say thanks for, and I've got options. So I'm going to say thanks for, so let me ink up my for. We'll just put that right underneath. We're going to say thanks for all the wonderful things you do. I'm going to bring in the berry burst layers and we will add that there. This one here, and guess what? We're going to go ahead, we're going to get these added to our card. Our message on the inside and then our thanks here on the outside. Now, you notice my little border is going to cover it just a little bit, and that's why I do want to go ahead and add this now, because now I'm ready to adhere my border down. Now, I got to tell you, I really think the multi-purpose glue is your best choice here because we can just add just some dots of glue here. You'll kind of see in between the flowers where you can add your little dots. All right. Now, we will simply press that down. And see all these little openings, all our little flower openings? We're going to have some fun with those daffodil flowers. I've got my paper piercing mat here, and I do want to make sure that all of my flowers are face up. This is one of my favorite tools for this technique. I'm going to give these flowers a little bit of a pop. I'm going to use a pen that is not, clicked. I want the clicker closed. And watch this. I'm just going to press right in the middle of those flowers, and do you see how it just naturally kind of bends and it just gives a really good shape so they're not just flat. We're going to be dolling these up a little bit more here in a second, but let me bring in my card back in with my multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to add a dot of glue in the center of each flower opening of my border. And we can just now add these right here. I'm using my take your pick tool. Sometimes when I'm worried my fingers do not want to behave, my take your pick tool is my saving grace. So I'm not at all worried if I don't get these in the spots perfectly straight. I kind of like having just that little bit of a border sort of popping out there, so don't stress over that. And now to give those flowers a little zhuzh, we're going to bring the pearlized enamel effects. This is the basics. And remember, when you purchase this, you get the red, the white, and the silver. And with this one, we're going to use the red, but you're going to be amazed how this red really works quite well with the berry burst. So I'm going to just give it a little squeeze. And do you see just that nice little, just this nice little center? And it's pearlized. What's not to love about that? So it kind of gives the center of our flowers, first of all, you can already see how much better they look when they have that little bit of color there. Now, this part's important. This needs to dry. Set this somewhere safe where the kids can't get to it, the dog can't get to it. You want to make sure that has plenty of time to dry. That could take, an hour or two. So just set this aside. While we're letting this dry, let's go ahead and create our second card.
Remember, I've got that free download for you. You can find that at simplysimplestamping.com, or if you look down in the YouTube description, there's a direct link to today's post.
I must say, I do love this card. This is the new basic beige color that Stampin' Up! Introduced in the 2024-2025 annual catalog. And we're going to be using a fabulous die. This one is called Elegant Borders. And let me tell you, it is definitely elegant. I'm going to take this one here. I think this one is so pretty. So let's go over the measurements for our card. The card base is in basic beige and the measurements are exactly the same, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4.25 and also at 7/8 of an inch. I have another piece of basic beige that is a 2 by 5, and then for our layers, we're going to team it up with some Very Vanilla. So this is a 4 by 5.25, and this one here we're actually going to use as a backing layer, but it's a 2.25 by 5.25. First things first, let's die cut with our border die. Now, one thing, I'm going to set this right here because I want you to be able to see. I'm going to zoom in. With this particular die, there's a cutting edge and there's an edge that is going to stay put. So let me kind of show you. See, this is the fold, and this area here up at the top, that is what's cut. How do you know what's going to cut? Well, if you'll look right here, do you see how the edge of the border, you can see how that's going to cut, but this bottom part is not? Okay, so you can see you've got a blade here, but you don't down here at the bottom. So with that in mind, we want that blade side to the top, okay? So just make sure you've got that in place. Once again, I have base plate 1, thin die adapter 2, cutting plate 3, cutting blade is to the outside edge, center that up from side to side, add your next cutting plate, and now we can run this through. All right, we're going to carefully remove the die because this is a delicate one. I don't want anything to tear. All right, now as you can see, there might be a few of the little pieces that didn't come out. You can use your take your pick tool brush, but you know what? I don't have too many here, so I'm just going to use the paper piercer to get those out of there. I will come back in with the multi-purpose glue, and I'm just going to add glue right down here at the bottom. All right, I will come in with my bone folder and kind of give that a press. Now, I'm not going to adhere down anything else. I'm going to let the border just kind of be what it is. All right, remember that piece of Very Vanilla? So this would be the 2.25 by 5.25. I'm going to add that here at the top, and now we're going to take our other piece of basic beige. This would be the 2 by 5. We're going to do a little embossing. So let's bring in an embossing folder. I decided to use the distressed tiled embossing folder, but you know what? Whichever one you choose to use, that is your creativity at work. So go have fun. We're going to place that inside our folder. We're going to bring our machine back in. We've got plate 1. I've got my folder with that cardstock, and now embossing plate 4. Let's run this through. I've got 2 pieces of the new basic beige ribbon. This would be the bordered ribbon. I have one here that is about 7 inches, and I am going to take that and I'm just going to adhere the tabs of that to the back. I'll just a little bit to hold it in place. Don't worry, we'll be adding Stampin' Dimensionals to this, so it'll have the ability to have a little more adhesive back there to really hold it in place, but a little upcycling with my Stampin' Dimensionals. So this is what I like to call the bones of my dimensionals. I've used them all up. I'm just going to split, just snipping these. So you see I've got 2 of these nice long ones. Whenever you've got a really great big area that you need to add dimension to a card, I love using Stampin' Dimensional bones because look at that. We get all of that and there's no waste. Let me take my second long one. You notice I have the flat side to the outside. I don't want that jaggedy edge to show. So I'm going to put that to the inside. I can take one of these, snip one of those in half, and you can see that'll go right over that ribbon. So that's going to help hold that in place. This one was a little bit long, so I'm going to trim it down, but there's still enough to hold that. Let me take this little extra. We'll just stick that right there. And this last bit, well, I am going to put it right down the middle because I don't want that to have any sag to it. All right, let's remove our backings. We'll add that to our card. Now I've got about 10 inches of ribbon, and we're just going to tie this in a bow over here on the left side. So let's get that there. We'll tie ourselves just a quick little bow. And the last thing we need to do is the stamping on the inside of the card. So I'm going to take the basic beige ink pad and I'm going to use a different stamp set here. Sweetly Scripted. Oh my gosh, you guys, this stamp set is fantastic. First of all, I love these great big long sentiments, and these are perfect for cards like this because we basically have that little area that it's going to peek out. We'll add that to the inside of our card, and there we go. A really pretty get well card, speedy recovery. I love that. I love the texture and that elegant border. And there you go, my friends. Just two very quick and simple cards. I loved those little flowers and, of course, the pearlized enamel effects. Beautiful. And this one, you know, I chose Get Well, but it could be used for so many things. Sympathy, wedding, lots of ideas.
Friends, I so appreciate you joining me today. Thank you. Hey, if you liked the video, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? And if you have not subscribed, it's easy. Click the subscribe button and YouTube can let you know whenever I'm back with another video. That's all for me, everybody. Thank you. Make it a fantastic day. Can't wait to stamp with you next time. Bye-bye.